Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our ceremony this morning to recognize Gold Star families. This, of course, the Veterans Memorial Park, Kentucky annual ceremony. We're kind of scattered around here this morning. If anybody would like to come down and sit in the chairs on the floor, we're certainly welcome to do so. I'm the county judge. My name is David Vogel, for those of you who don't know me. I'd like to welcome you and thank all of you for coming. This is a busy morning in Oldham County. On my way here this morning, I saw people at the North Oldham Little League. The soccer is going strong in Buckner. There are many people at Oldham County High School for some kind of event this morning. We have a Leaders Don't Litter pickup event going on in all our parks today, so there are many people out this morning doing things. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to come here. This is such an important ceremony and an important remembrance of those who have served, gone before us, and made the ultimate sacrifice. We're all familiar with the phrase that many gave some, but some gave all. Some of those here today are Gold Star families. We welcome them. We're going to recognize them. They also gave all. When you stop and think about losing someone, if you thought this morning, who's someone in my family that I would really, really hate to lose? We all love people and we all want them to be here. Sometimes, events turn negative and it doesn't happen. The pain is there, it lasts forever. The situation is permanent, and the finality of it all certainly hurts. So we recognize all the families that have sacrificed. We're recognizing, of course, the individuals that sacrificed their lives and the family members who love them, who also are in sacrifice. And of course, we don't want to forget perhaps our latest loss here today, Don Helton, who should be here, but he's not. We all know that he passed away a couple of weeks ago after a serious battle with cancer, that he gave his all, and Ann supported him tremendously to try to win against that demon. Eventually it overtook him. But even though Don isn't here this morning, his spirit is here. He's on everyone's mind. And we pray to God that Don rest in eternal peace, and that we thank him so much for the idea he had to put this park together. Nothing happens till someone has an idea. Don had an idea, and we're here today, and his idea will be a permanent idea. We thank those that joined him to support the idea. No one does anything alone, but Don was the person that made that happen. So I'm not sure if someone plans later to have a moment of silence in memory of Don Helton, but I'd like to do that right now. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Master Sergeant Joe Hamilton.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judge. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for the posting of the colors? The Sons of the American Revolution are posting the colors today. Post the colors.
Color guard, attention. Forward, march. right face. Prepare to post. Post.
Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Cub Scout Pack number 28 will be leading us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard, right face. Forward march.
Jerry. And now, the flag of Kentucky, the Kentucky flag, will be brought forward. Presentation of the Kentucky flag today is done by veterans representing all branches of the military service. A brief history of the Kentucky flag. In 1794, the Flag Act authorized a new 15-star and 15-stripe flag. This regulation went into effect May 1st, 1795, and the Star-Spangled Banner became the new official flag of the United States. The 2 additional stars and stripes were added to the original design in order to represent the admission of Vermont in 1791 and Kentucky in 1792. This particular edition of the American flag is known as the Star-Spangled Banner because it was the actual flag that flew over Fort McHenry and served as the inspiration for Francis Scott Key's song that will become the national anthem, Star-Spangled Banner of the United States of America. The national anthem will be sung by the men's quartet, Gary Bricken, Howard Haberlin, Barry Miller, and Clay Summer. Thank you. Nicholas Pearl, our park chaplain, will give our opening prayer. As soon as they leave. Hang on.
Would everyone please bow their heads and remove all headgear? Dear God, we thank you for bringing us all here together to be here and gather for all the veterans. And we thank you all for coming. And every veteran here, we thank you for your service. And Don Helton, we are sorry for his loss. And we know that he is in a better place now, and he has inspired many people, including me, to be the best that we can be. Pray that you can keep us all safe and healthy in everything we do. We pray in your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Please take your seats. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, I am Joe Hamilton, a member of the Board of Directors for the Veterans Memorial Park of Kentucky. Could I have all of the Board of Directors for the Veterans Memorial Park please stand at this time? And all right, thank you all. These are the people that put a lot of time, talent, and money into making this park a success and carry on the vision of Don Helton, the founding father of the park. I would be remiss if I did not mention that the founder of the Veterans Memorial Park passed from our midst and was buried just 2 short weeks ago today. Don Helton was the inspiration and driving force for this park. We will miss him greatly. He worked harder than anyone else did, and the park will not be the same without him. We will do our best to honor him and his legacy and his vision for the park. Thanks to Don for all of his untiring dedication and devotion to make this park unique. Thank you, Don. One of our local hometown heroes is not in attendance today, but he will make an appearance in a different way, however. We have a C-53, a C-47 modified paratrooper from World War II. It will be accompanied by a P-51 and a local Warbird aircraft. They will do a flyover at 11:45 today. Our local hometown hero, Master Sergeant Howard Griffin, U.S. Army, U.S. Coast Guard, retired. He will be riding in the C-53 plane. Howard is a veteran of World War II, Korea, and the Vietnam War, receiving Purple Hearts in all 3 wars. So I'm giving fair warning that the inside portion of this program will be finished by 11:37 so we can gather outside to watch this. Isn't that right, Ann? Okay. Got to check with the boss, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce Corianne Howard Jackson. She is here today on behalf of Allison Grimes, the Secretary of State.
Good morning. I will stick to the comments. The Office of the Secretary of State, Allison Lundergan Grimes, is proud to honor the life of Mr. Don Helton this morning. Chief Warrant Officer retired Donald W. Helton, U.S. Army, spent his life in service to his country and to others, and he has left a legacy, an unwavering commitment to improving the lives around him. In everything that he did, from his military service during the Vietnam War, to his tireless efforts and sacrifices in putting on today's annual event, to his role in Crestwood becoming a Purple Heart city, he showed tremendous generosity, compassion, dedication, and fortitude. Don lived a full and fulfilling life, achieving many significant accomplishments along the way. In addition to being inducted into the Kentucky Veterans Hall of Fame, he was also a Boy Scouts of America Silver Beaver Award recipient. Don never forgot to look out for others. This can be seen in his time spent honoring Kentuckians for their military service throughout the beautiful Veterans Memorial Park of Kentucky and his service on several Kentucky Veterans Boards and Councils. He truly understood that we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Those who knew Don are better for it, and his selfless spirit will surely live on in the hearts of many, including but not least of all his children, grandchildren, and his lovely wife and partner, Mrs. Helton. May God bless and comfort Ann during this difficult period, and know that the entire Helton family is in all of our thoughts and prayers. And Secretary Grimes would have loved to have been here today, and on her behalf, and on behalf of all Kentuckians, it is my honor to present a Commonwealth Ambassador Award and Secretary of State Challenge coin to Mrs. Helton in Dawn's memory and for her own commitment as a military spouse in service to her community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could I have all of our veterans stand and be recognized? Awesome. Thank you all so much. Could I have all of our Gold Star family members stand and be recognized? Thank you all so much. Thank you. Could I have any POW MIA family members stand to be recognized? All right, we have none today. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest speaker today is Brigadier General Benjamin F. Adams III, U.S. Army retired.
Don't read it.
All right, the general says do not read his bio, so that's what I do. He is the Department of Affairs Commissioner for the state of Kentucky. Here you are, General.
Got to save that time.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Yeah, that's right. The boss is here. I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak here on behalf of the veterans of the great Commonwealth. I was asked to offer some remarks on sacrifice, which, given we're in the middle of the Military Appreciation Month, it seems all too fitting. It might be easier to start with what sacrifice is not. It's not going along or getting along and hoping no one bothers you, nor is it the other end of the spectrum in what we might gently call proactive bullying. It's not watching a football game on television or speaking to the team in the terms of we, and it's not merely rising each morning, going to work and putting food on the table. That's just life. Service rises above routine of life. Service rises above being a mere spectator. Service is doing what is reasonably expected and perhaps the occasional extra. It's having read the job description and understanding the difference between a paycheck and a certificate of appreciation. Above service is a category of putting others before oneself as a matter of course. It's servant leadership. And it's a quality every man and woman who dons a uniform in the armed forces, and it's the human quality of our veterans that makes my job so enjoyable every day of the year. I get to interact and serve with those people who know what it means to stand their watch on a lonely post on the other side of the globe. It's having read the job description and understanding the word others is less of a pronoun and more of a verb. It's action of oneself as to be subordinate to another. But servant leadership is taught in some of our premier youth programs, such as Boy Scouts, which we have several here today. And their Scout Oath, their servant leadership entails three key principles: duty to God, to country, duty to self, and duty to others. President John F. Kennedy understood how service and servant leadership works when he challenged us at the dawn of the 1960s to set foot on the moon before the end of the decade. This wasn't a 10-year proposition. It was done in less than 7 years. When he issued the challenge in September of 1962, how fitting that on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong, an Eagle Scout, would do just that. And in the words of our 35th president, we chose to go to the moon and do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they are hard. Kennedy's challenge to us, to every American, wasn't made in a vacuum. For my money, it was a continuing theme shuttle between service and servant leadership. Many would say the harbinger of things to come from our young president became apparent in his inaugural address when he paused on that cold January morning, then issued his first challenge to us. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Which brings us to that rare air of sacrifice. This isn't a human quality limited to the battlefield. Although one should be surprised that when service leaps straight through servant leadership and manifests itself as sacrifice. We sometimes cheapen the term. In baseball, they're notorious for it by saying a sacrifice fly. This is simply trading one quality for another. But it's not the vernacular that we're exploring this morning. Rather, let's consider sacrifice in a comparable term such as gallantry and even love. In the wider view of relevant things, if we're looking for some common ground so we can wrap our heads around the concept, let's look no further than the book of John in the Christian Bible. Chapter 15, verse 13, for those keeping track. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. There are a thousand instances throughout the Bible and even the books of our own lives where we can think about this, and it sums up nicely. Skipping ahead in John's time, about 17 centuries, let's consider the observation by Napoleon Bonaparte. The soldier will fight long and hard for a bit of colored ribbon. I heard a variant of these two quotes that struck me as brilliant. Though I haven't been really unable to properly attribute these, but simply too profound, because as a soldier, I was moved when I heard it when spoken aloud. You know, ask a man what price would he accept for payment of his own life, and none would be high enough. Ask the same man, that same soldier, that laid down his life for a scrap of ribbon and a proper cause, and his life will have become paid in full. Remember, I told you that sacrifice wasn't limited to the battlefield. Parents, by virtue of their job description, sacrifice for their children as a matter of course. George Washington's sacrifice would have been what we consider a really great retirement after he won the nation, but that really wasn't it. For the promise of freezing nights, insurrections, humiliations, heartache, and nothing in his pay envelope, not even the envelope. And before the ink was dry, the signatures on the Declaration of Independence, all the signers of the Declaration of Independence virtually fled from Philadelphia, knowing that the necktie party that awaited them was surely not metaphoric, but a butt chewing by some irritated boss. Of those 56 men, a dozen fought in the Revolutionary War battles, 5 were captured and imprisoned by the British, a third of them lost property to the Redcoats, and a third of those lost their fortunes in funding the Revolution. Several had their homes destroyed. These men didn't set foot in service or even servant leadership. They went straight to sacrifice. I'll end my remarks where they should end, in offering that sacrifice is not uncommon on the battlefield, for reasons that every veteran may appreciate, and for reasons that may be hard to put in words. Particularly hard to understand if you have not been there, if you have not looked at the soldier in the foxhole next to you as a soldier, but as a brother. In April of 2007, there was a Marine Lieutenant, Travis Mannion, was there. Missions would be briefed. The commander would ask for volunteers. Lieutenant Mannion's hand would always be among the first to go up, and his refrain was, "If not me, then who?" If I was not to go, which other son or father among us would have to go? This wasn't a matter of giving up a weekend of golf with your buddies to go to a dance recital with your daughter. This was sacrifice, self-service, servant leadership incarnate. This was the finest America had to offer, and this was one of their finest sons. Lieutenant Mannion was killed by an enemy sniper on April 29, 2007, while saving one of his wounded teammates. Travis Mannion laid down his life in exactly the same spirit as described in the book of John 2 millennia ago. And for Travis, I am without a doubt that he was welcomed home with the refrain of "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." So thank you, and happy Armed Forces Appreciation Month. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce our next guest. She is the former Miss America 2000. She is also the former Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs Commissioner. She is one of the strongest supporters of our military. She is involved in so many things that she has to have 2 secretaries to help her meet all of her appointments. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Heather French Henry.
It's great to be here, and thank you, Commissioner Adams, for being here as well. And I'm so proud that you have mentioned George Washington. Our very first president once said the willingness of future generations to serve our country will be directly dependent on how we treat those who have already served. And today is about honoring those who have served and who have paid that ultimate sacrifice. And today we also honor our wonderful Don Helton, who will be forever missed. What a great friend, what a great patriot. And today I get a chance to introduce a woman who understands what that sacrifice is all about, who gave of her son. Lynn Romans is a wonderful, magnificent woman who has the strength, I don't even know where it comes from, but the fact that she lost her son, Darren Potter, a guardsman killed in action in 2003 in Iraq, and she still gets up every single day. And she encourages all of us to never forget the sacrifices that have been paid for our freedoms. She is the epitome of activism and support. She travels all over, not only the Commonwealth, but the nation, advocating for Gold Star families. She's actually from around here in Oldham County. She lives in Radcliffe, Kentucky. She and I serve both together as an honorary member of the Woody Williams Medal of Honor Foundation. She has worked with the American Red Cross since 1990 and is now a Service to Armed Forces Program Specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your Gold Star mother, Lynn Romans.
Good morning. Thank you for this honor today. And as Heather said, I am Lynn Romans, and I am a Gold Star mother. My son, Sergeant Darren Potter, served with the Kentucky Army National Guard as part of the 223rd MP unit out of Louisville. It was on a Tuesday, September the 30th, 2003, when we were notified that our son was dead, killed in action. Darren was serving in Iraq when their convoy came under fire. The vehicle that they were in went off the road into a water-filled canal. Darren was swept away in the swift current. 3 of the other 4 occupants made it to safety, and Darren's body was recovered after a long search and rescue effort. Assisting in the search and rescue was the 82nd Airborne Parachute Infantry out of Fort Bragg. A member of that unit also lost his life during the search, Sergeant Andrew Joseph Baddick from Pennsylvania. Darren had just turned 24. AJ was 26. Both Darren and AJ's death were drownings. During the funeral preparations with our casualty assistance officer, our family were given these Gold Star pins, along with some other honors and medals that were awarded to Darren after his death. When we received these pins, I'm not sure that I even knew what they were, what they represented, or what they meant. Darren was the first Kentucky Guardsman killed in action since Vietnam, and he was the first Kentucky casualty after 9/11. And it had been many, many years since our state had a combat-related death. Now I was a Gold Star mother. What did that really mean? All I knew was my son was gone. So I had to do some research to learn a little more, so I want to share some of that with you. The Gold Star is a symbol of honor that no one wants, and most people don't really understand what it means. But how did it become the symbol of sacrifice? During World War I, a practice developed among the country where families displayed a flag featuring a blue star. This was a sign that a family member was fighting in the war. Some families had more than one flag, more than one star on the flag. Just how the next tradition began is unclear, but when a soldier died, the blue star was replaced by a gold one. Actually, a gold one was placed over the blue one on that flag. And this allowed members of the community to know the price that this family had paid in the cause of freedom. In 1918, President Woodrow Wilson was believed to coin the phrase Gold Star Mother. In 1947, Congress authorized the military to issue Gold Star lapel pins to families of those who had died in combat. Today, we recognize the sacrifice of family members when a loved one dies in service to the nation. This death affects so many that are represented across the country. Not only the mothers who seem to be recognized, maybe because of that relationship of carrying the child and giving birth, but fathers who die briefly, and every family member. So many lives affected and changed when that loved one dies. And I've come to realize that behind every one of these Gold Star is a story of great loss, much heartache, but I've also seen much strength. And as a Gold Star mother, I have aligned myself with a national organization, the American Gold Star Mothers, and our uniform, if you could call it that, is that we wear white, and our motto is that we turn our sacrifice into service. And so if you see a Gold Star mother, they're typically in white. So it's very important to me that the sacrifice of my son, as well as many others that have lost their life and given all for our freedoms and service to our country, never be forgotten. I know that as long as I live in immediate family, we will continue to share Darren's stories and we will never forget. And that's why I so appreciate the monuments to educate, as well as serve a reminder of those sacrifices that make others aware of what this Gold Star really means. I am a very proud Gold Star mom, and I know I raised a hero. Thank you, and God bless America.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reynolds. Ladies and gentlemen, we have several Gold Star family members here today. And Barbara Simpson and Jerry Rankin lost their brother in the Vietnam War. He was the first Oldham County person to be killed in the Vietnam War. Sorry for your loss. And Chris Johnson, his father, was in another war. The groundbreaking for the Gold Star Monument that we're going to have here in the park is going to be on the 5th of June, 2019 at 10 a.m. Herschel Woody Williams will be our guest speaker. He is the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from Iwo Jima. He is 96 years old, and if you're going to go anywhere with him, you better be running so you can keep up. Woody is unbelievable. The men's quartet will now sing the Armed Forces Salute for us. When you hear your song, please stand. Air Force. Army. Coast Guard. Lieutenant Colonel James Keebler, U.S. Air Force retired, will now tell us an abbreviated version of military traditions.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and honored guests, and all those who took their time out of their busy day today to come and be with us. We are so honored to have you here as we recognize our Gold Star families. You know, we've talked about a lot of tradition, and one of the things that we do is to honor them with the memorials and the park that we are now preparing. I hope that you will take out into your neighborhoods, visit with your families and friends that are around here, and please encourage them. Come visit the park, walk the path, see what is being done, because this is all in honor of those who did go before us and made this available to us. So I'm so grateful to be a part. As we talk about these traditions, I want to take a little bit of time, and I promise it will be very short, abbreviated to speak, and just give a little bit of information about these time-honored military traditions and understand a little bit of why they're here and what they do them for. One of the things that you'll see in the park today are boots in the trees. Now, a lot of times people think, well, now why in the world would somebody take a perfectly good pair of working boots and throw them up in a tree? Well, the time-honored tradition is this is to indicate that the working man, and my husband would say, yes, I'm a sergeant, or he's a sergeant, he was the working man. I'm the officer, but I respect him dearly. Boots in the trees is a time-honored tradition of showing that their time in that particular branch of the service is short. They're short-timers. So it's not really saying that they are giving up anything except that particular part of their time, that part of their life. So the boots in the trees still represent that soldier's short time left. Many of you also will remember, tie the yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. Yellow ribbons around trees has become a cultural phenomenon today. We have taken that from even a movie back in 1949, she wore a yellow ribbon, and now taking it to our forefront in 1973 to tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. It still serve the same purpose that it did back then, and that is to let someone know that there's someone at home waiting for someone who is either overseas, in a faraway country, so that when they do return home and they see that yellow ribbon, they're welcomed back with open arms. Another phenomenon you might see, and we have some of those we're going to be displaying today, is dog tags in trees. Back in 1899, this identity disc actually was created by a chaplain. And the reason for its significance was because we had members of our military services they could never identify. So what they did in World War I, it was the first war in which the U.S. soldiers who entered into the fight actually wore this identification innovation. The first U.S. dog tag, and it was reverted to the name dog tag, was issued in August of 1917. But just prior to World War II, in 1940, the U.S. Army switched to the familiar stainless steel rectangular tag that had the rounded edges, and the military members at that time started calling it dog tags because it represented something very similar that their dogs would wear. The hanging of dog tags in the trees is symbolic of our troops coming home from battle. Another such time, this is not so much time tested because it's very rare that we will receive it anymore, and that's Iwo Jima sand in the brick pad, for which we were honored to have some placed in our brick pad underneath the bricks of our fallen and active duty and present members of the military. Iwo Jima is the most famous battle of the Pacific in World War II. It was the United States Marine Corps' finest hour during that time. Access to Iwo Jima sand is very limited, getting it, and especially having it available to put in our park, was very difficult. We are honored to have a portion of the Iwo Jima sand in our park brick pad. And last but not very least, is taps. The modern version of the military's bugle call for the deceased originated July 1862 during the Civil War. More than likely, taps comes from the 3 drum taps that was played, and that was a signal to extinguish lights. This was done by the bugler. Though a number of stories still exist today of how it came to be, the version accepted by most historians is that the Union Brigadier General Daniel Butterfield, who didn't like the colorless, not insignificant, extinguished lights end of the day call, whistled a new tune. The 24 notes that comprise this solemn tradition began long ago, but it still continues to this day. There are no official words to the music, but these are among the most popular. Day is done, gone the sun, from the hills, from the lake, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. We appreciate your time, and please tell your family and your friends, come visit the park. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, Second Vice Chair of Veterans Memorial Park, Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Davis, U.S. Army retired, will tell us some ways that you can help support the park.
Speaking very briefly for Scott Quinlan, who always speaks very briefly, as our fundraising chair. I first want to thank everyone for their continued support. This park wouldn't exist if all of you hadn't done what you have done to this point. This is a big month for us in honoring Gold Star mothers, and we're focused on getting a Gold Star monument in the park. And so one of our 2 main fundraisers is May 23rd, Heroes and Horses at Churchill Downs. And we encourage you, check with one of the board members, look online at VMPKYHERO, it's VMPKYHeroes.com, and you can buy your tickets there, and we look forward to seeing you there. In July, we'll have our annual golf scramble, if golf is your thing more than horses, and we would love to see you there. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, sir. And now the men's quartet will sing our closing song.
Every
as always, with anything military, everything changes, and you adapt and overcome. I see that our local hometown hero, Master Sergeant Howard Griffin, is here. Howard, would you please stand? Thank you very much. Not sure why he's not on the plane today, but evidently it didn't pass his inspection, so he didn't go on it. I understand. Nick, will you give us a closing prayer?
All rise.
Let everyone please bow their heads and remove all headgear. Dear God, we thank you for bringing us all here together to honor our wonderful veterans and Gold Star family members. We thank you that you have kept us safe, and we are in an unpayable debt to our veterans. We pray that you can keep us all safe and healthy in everything we do. We pray in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. We want to give a special thanks to Brigadier General Gene Spicer, a 30-year veteran of the U.S. Army. He is also a member of the Kilroy, Kentucky, Indiana Liberated Relics of Yesteryear Club. They have vehicles and relics from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam, and the Iraq and Afghanistan wars outside. Thank you, guys. Once outside, we will have a rifle salute performed by the Sons of the American Revolution, and the playing of taps will be performed by Kenton County Sheriff Chuck Korsenbarn, U.S. Army retired. The Fife and Drum Corps will lead us outside. If you would, please follow them.